Hello, Bronwyn Lund from Bornholm Tours here. I'm on the island of Bornholm and I'm making 360 video walking tours of the island for people who either can't get here or can't get around the island. And today we're actually standing about halfway between Årsdale and Nexø on the east coast of the island, and we're going to walk from this very picturesque spot along the coast and wind up at some standing stones. So I hope you enjoy the tour. This is one of the finest vantage points along the coast between Årsdale and Nexø, and behind us on the other side of the rocks is actually a lovely picnic area. So it's also a good place to come and have a picnic and a spot of lunch. And this is just the view looking south. And this is the direction that we're going to be heading on this walking tour. I've really been looking forward to doing this tour because it's a bit tricky. There's a lot of scrabbling over rocks and really watching where you're putting your feet. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the footage myself, because I do spend most of my time on this walk looking at my feet, making sure I don't slip over. So there is an ulterior motive to making this film today. And it's particularly slippery because it has been raining a lot. So the path and the rocks are fairly slippery. So just bear with me here as I negotiate this tricky path. Fortunately, the camera is so clever that it keeps the lenses focused on the horizon rather than looking down at the path. And it also, the software, the editing software of the camera stabilizes the film as well. So it makes for a much more enjoyable experience. So I'll just hop over this brook. Yes, without being able to keep the lens on the horizon and the stabilization, I think it would be a very different walking tour experience. even though the path is public and it's a coastal path, the land is actually privately owned. So every now and again you might come across a horse grazing in the fields, or sheep sometimes. So that always makes the walk a little bit more interesting. As you've probably worked out, this is a pretty quiet walk, not a lot of people out today. We're coming to the end of summer, and the holiday season has really started to wind up. So we won't see terribly many people along this walk today. It's pretty quiet. Over to the left, as we rounded that tree, is an embankment, and just directly in front of us here, and this formed a series of cannon batteries that protected the coast mainly from Swedish invasion. And there's a bit of information here on the actual battery. And it's called Guthells Battery. Only a few places in Denmark can boast as many ramparts and cannon batteries as the coast of Bornholm. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the ramparts were built as long, low earthworks placed as closely to the beach as possible. They were infantry ramparts protecting the defenders against fire from enemy ships. Moreover, they gave the defenders advantageous position in hand-to-hand fighting. In the 18th and 19th centuries, quite a few cannon batteries were erected on nearly all points along the coast. They are made of banks of turf and have straight fronts and backward bending flanks. The stands of the cannons in the battery are built of stone, giving the cannons a firm foundation and a free field of fire. In this particular battery, 2 stone-built barbettes providing the cannons with a firm foundation may clearly be seen. In 1807 and 1814, the battery became armed with 2 cannons, each of which were able to fire balls of about 4 kilograms. It's actually not known whether the battery was ever in operation. So right up until the 18th century, the coast was still under threat, and it wasn't the safest place to live on the coast. But you can see you have quite a good vantage point from here. You can shoot cannons out in a range, and then there's batteries all along the coast. And actually, where we'll finish this tour at the Standing Stones, that is the next defence battery. So we come to the end of the horse field here. I can see live horse droppings, so, well, fresh horse droppings, not live. So there are horses in the field, but they're not on the path today. So this is the first of two bays that we'll see along this walk. It's very calm today. As I said, looking forward to seeing the footage because I just spent most of that time looking at my feet, making sure I didn't fall over. This little natural inlet here is called the Swedish harbour, or Svenska Hamn, and it's actually the place where the Swedish landed in 1645 and marched down to Nexø and actually captured the town for a short while. And there were a few prominent residences who were killed in that skirmish. And this field normally has some long-haired goats. Oh, there they are up there. Half white, half black. They're quite curious creatures. Long-haired goats in that field. I might actually come back and film this path in the winter because in the winter the leaves are not on the trees, obviously, because they're deciduous, and you can actually get a much better view of the coast through the trees. So if you think that might be something interesting that you'd like to watch, please just leave a comment underneath the film here, and I'll come back and film this area in winter. It's quite a different landscape, as you can imagine. We might even get a better close-up of the goats, although of course they'll probably be inside in the barn, although I think they're fairly hardy, these goats, and we've had some pretty mild winters, so never know. It's an incredibly calm day today. Normally there is always waves in this little inlet, but today it's very, very calm. Up ahead are the standing stones and the second battery along this walk. So we'll just walk up on top of the battery and admire the view from the standing stones and wrap up the walk up there. So this one is called Skansen, and it's probably the most famous battery on Bornholm. According to tradition, the people of Svanike, which is the town north of here after Årsdale, led by Albert Wolfson, tried to prevent a Swedish landing here. After a short but violent fight, Albert Wolfson and his followers were killed. Afterwards, the Swedes forced their way into Nexø, which they plundered. Skansen was last repaired in 1808 during the war against Britain from 1807 to 13. At that time the battery was armed with 2 cannons, each of which could fire 4-kilogram balls. So that was a walk along the east coast of Bornholm between Årsdale and Nexø. This is Bronwyn Lund signing off from BronHolm Tours. Bye for now.